Audio test. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Ron.
Hello, Ron.
Hi, Dr. Gunderson.
Hi, Teresa.
No, it's 1 minute after, but we'll just give it one more minute just in case people are joining.
Connie Krusniak sent me an email that she won't be able to make it tonight. I thought Vidar was already, nope.
What?
Nope, I thought, yes, there he is. Okay, good.
I thought it was.
How are you? I thought I saw you. There you are.
Yeah.
And I think, let me shoot a message over to Randy real quick just to see if he was going to be able to make it. He's been one busy guy.
Glad I'm not alone. Well, let's get started. Respect time. I think I'd like to provide just an update where we're at. And so from our last meeting, the revelation that we went over was the use of bond funds on the property and what ramifications that has for using those funds. And so we talked about the board is on track to use about 460, 430, somewhere in that range, $100,000 of the almost $31 million bond to take down Jefferson Elementary. And through our attorney that said that if those funds are used in that capacity, then the restrictions for use of where those bonds are used or funds, would be restricted. That the sale or profiting from those, for that work to be done wouldn't be an allowable expense. And when it was prior to a board meeting that we met, and so that the board had a conversation related to that. And there seems to be a commitment, that there is a commitment to use bond proceeds But we came to the determination that using those bond proceeds for taking the building down holds the restrictions just to the footprint of that building. So if the money is used just to bring that building down and the materials taken away from that site, then the remainder of the site is available for the district to utilize, just not that footprint of that building. Does that make sense? Any questions about that concept and
Yeah,
what we learned? Yes, Vidar.
I have a question there because there are also several temporary buildings on the site. And I would assume that the footprint that you refer to would include those temporary buildings.
Well, this is where we can be a little bit creative on maybe on those outbuildings. The board can look at potentially using general funds, maybe to take those buildings away, and that would allow that space to be potentially used. But I think that that option will be reviewed after the bond is passed and we get the bid process rolling for that site. And even, any damage to the property or any outside of the footprint of the building that needs to be repaired or fixed, the board is looking at using general funds to do those repairs so that those expenditures aren't included in the bond proceeds, just to keep flexibility available.
May I ask another question, Ron?
Yes, Vidar.
Spicer, have they done any more work since what we saw last time?
No, and we're still waiting for the title work that Spicer has requested to be done. So we haven't even received the title work yet for the property, but no other work has been done by Spicer at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So any other questions related to where we are right now?
Could you repeat your summary of what happened at MAP's meeting?
Yes, we reviewed, the board met and reviewed our last meeting or our board meeting.
Well, your last meeting.
Yes, this last committee meeting, we shared the information. I shared the information related to what we received from our attorney related to the usability of the property once bond funds are spent on a site. And therefore, if bond monies are spent on a site, the eligibility for development or sale of that property where bond funds were used, that would not be allowed.
Right.
Yep. So a board meeting after that communication and that development, the board met and the attorney joined the board for that meeting just to clarify, ask questions. And the board came to a determination that yes, we would like to continue with the plan as presented, using bond funds to take that building down. And but the clarification related to it doesn't encompass all the property where bond funds were not used, only that building, the site that was taken down and taken away.
So just the specific footprint of the building.
Yes, and as
So
yep.
What options do you have for the rest of the property then?
Well, I think some of the options that we continue to talk about are options. I think it's important for the district to have an understanding what personal green space they need for the district moving forward related to fields. As you know, the Kennedy project encompasses the practice field, old high school field there. And I'm not certain we have a full understanding of our needs for green space. So bond passes, we start putting things out for bid. And we, in that time, evaluate what our current and potential future needs are for green space. In the meantime, we will, when the building does come down, we would cut, maintain, and landscape the area so it's suitable to the neighborhood. But in the meantime, we'll, like I said, I think the board needs to evaluate its current and future needs for green space. Brenda, I haven't really said that out loud, but I mean, Teresa, what do you think about that idea?
Yeah, that I think, at the board meeting, I hope that I conveyed that this committee that's been meeting for a while now has been wanting to use that space for the benefit of everybody in the district, and not just our neighborhood. We wanted that it's everybody working together to benefit the entire district and the entire community. So I think that the board was impressed with how many options we had looked at and explored, and there's still a lot that needs to be determined. But we wanted to make sure that I know we keep saying when the bond passes, and I think that's great to be so optimistic, but the big chunk of this project is at Kennedy, of that 30 million that we're asking for. And so we want to really make sure that we've got our focus on getting that bond to pass, because otherwise it's just it's just a moot point right now. So we have a lot of options, but it's all dependent on this bond passing.
I know the board is focused on this committee. I know that, like this committee, that they feel the options are open. Nothing has been eliminated as an option. And so we want to keep this committee engaged as the bond passes, and that we reconvene and update and talk about. We talk about the bid process on the property. We talk about schedule for things to happen on the property with this committee. And then we talk about the process of evaluation and involved in discussion for future district use potential. And I know we'll talk to the city about available property and uses at Sands and other green space availability. I imagine we'll be talking to the Manistee Recreation Group about their space and what their goals and visions are, just so we can get all that information together. And it's still at the top of the list is housing is still at the top of the list as an option. Understanding that the need in the community for all housing is a priority, and that that's still part of the discussion. And the board was happy to know that this committee has not eliminated that as an option. Maybe in part housing and green space combination, the footprint of the building may create some creative options for both. But I think having the understanding what the needs of the district are potentially with the property is definitely part of that process too. The board wants to develop and maintain trust with this committee and know that we're on the same page as this committee. And currently and in the future, we'll share the same vision and goals together. And that's the goal. But like I said, trust is a big portion of that, and a commitment to each other. And that we want to make sure that we don't lose that and maintain that communication, which leads to trust.
Ron, when we get to or if we get to a place where you said maps will research or investigate what need there is for green space. the first thing that comes to mind is usually athletics.
Yeah,
But-
that's what I'm referring to, Vidar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I want to add to that the science part of this and the environmental sciences and the opportunity here to create something really novel and interesting in terms of the research on grasses and bushes and so-called deer-resistant vegetation. So let's not forget that part either. It's not just athletics. Of course, athletics are important. And you mentioned earlier that maybe during tournaments or there would be need for more tennis courts too.
Yeah, we always want to work in collaboration with city and city parks, but we have no real tournament space for tennis. We do have some tennis courts at the beach park that we use, and upgrades have been done to that. But we could use a couple of more courts to be able to host tournaments.
Yeah.
And so that would be ideal.
So I also understand that it is possible to sell in the future that total parcel of land as long as the dollars that were spent to do the demolition were set in escrow. Is that not correct?
That was not an option that was represented to our attorney. I can ask that question though, Mick.
Yeah, that's how I understood it. As long as the dollars spent were escrowed into any transaction or sale, then it could be done in a future time.
You may be thinking that it was during the life of the bond, the 25 years. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
So,
Well, I asked that question directly. Well, can we just pay the bond back? And the bond's not a bank, and the bond is not
no.
used that way. So
Correct.
that
It would have to be
pick up.
escrowed. Any proceeds would have to be escrowed from how I understand it. And they would have to offset whatever the cost would be.
Again, that would be a loan to a degree, and those assets do not work that way, but I can
Mhm.
ask.
Okay.
because I
Yeah.
thought,
We got a different.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Mick. Ron, I thought that did come up at the board meeting, that we did ask the attorney that, but yeah, let's just verify.
Yeah, when you use those bond, my understanding, maybe Tricia, you remember too, that using those bond funds, that ties it up for 25 years. That's pretty straight and narrow. If it was a computer, the lifespan of it is like 5 years, and then you could move on after those 5 years, or a bus or something. But because dirt is forever, that would be the life of that paying that bond. But there may be changes or some developments that we can continue to look at as the years go by. But I will ask that specific escrow question to the attorney.
I think just kind of going back to the bond and in general, if we can talk about it, has anyone on the committee have heard anything throughout the community about or had questions about specific to the bond and kind of the thoughts and feelings of community members that and within the neighborhood that we're representing here?
I haven't heard anything.
No?
Nope.
It's kind of on the down low.
Yeah.
Due to COVID.
I had a question for Mick. What is the background for this idea of escrow? Is there some interest in buying the land for $1 million, or what is?
I don't know that there's any further, but again, when I asked the question of our lawyer, how they described it is in these words. They said, if the bond does fund the demolition, the school could still sell the property to a private developer by defacing the bonds through the use of an escrow account into which they would have to deposit money to call the bonds at the earlier call date.
Is there a developer who is currently interested?
Not that I'm aware of, no. It's never been asked of a developer. I was just wondering what all the options would possibly be.
Fair enough. Mick, if you email me that word, those, your opinion from your attorney, that may be helpful for me to be accurate for my question to my attorney, to the district.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm not a lawyer, so I didn't completely understand it. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, and the school bonding through Treasury may be unfamiliar. It's definitely unfamiliar to me to that depth, but our district attorney, school attorney, very rehearsed in that. It's his full-time job for most of the school districts in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuances to this.
Mm-hmm. But that's a good question.
Mhm. So Mick, with city council, I guess just to kind of get some idea of how your thoughts are on the bond proposal and it going through, just as we're, gosh, what are we, 25 days out?
Or less, yeah.
Yeah.
So far, I've gotten, again, I've gotten very positive vibes overall on the bond, but again, it's really hard to say when it goes out, and you're talking about this is county-wide, but I think city council, I don't know that there's been anyone that has any objection at all to the bond and how it's being proposed. But again, it is a cost to, and I know there is a small percentage of our population that says no to anything that increases taxes without even looking at it, or looking at the impact. And you can see that with some of the other proposals that have been forward in the cities and in the county, but that doesn't mean that they don't pass, right? So I'm optimistic.
So has city council given its approval or blessing or support for the bond?
I don't know that it's come up as a question. I don't know that it's was specifically requested, but it's something that I can bring up for the city council to support.
That'd be awesome. I guess I'm just nervous because it's the timing of everything is just really difficult right now, and yeah.
Well, and the reality is that with the way so many people are using absentee voting because of COVID, I am guessing, like myself, it's already a done deal. It's in the mail.
Yeah,
so,
I think the cake has been baked.
Yeah.
But there's some frosting that could still happen.
Oh,
so.
There's no question. I am sure there's a lot of people that still like to wait and go to the polls.
Yeah.
And just in the scope of economic development, and a piece of that puzzle may be interesting to the city council, just from that aspect to support also.
Yep.
And I think the chamber is reviewing a resolution themselves, kind of with that in mind too.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of, just reading up on bonds, and just that it really comes down to sometimes just a few votes. And so that's why we're really, I don't want to say nervous, but it's just, it's going to be interesting to see how this kind of shapes up.
Yeah, it wasn't long ago, Hart Public Schools passed by two votes.
Really?
Yeah,
Well, you've done all you can do.
well, yeah.
We've still got time.
Well, any questions about, I hope that this committee is interested in staying together, and I think we can, gain some members to the committee and continue to work together when this does pass. And someday, if not this time, it will, because we need it to. And this committee, this neighborhood, and interested individuals will continue to be engaged with the school district. I know the board finds you guys invaluable for input, and it is that, like I said, this is how you build trust, and that you work collaboratively together and respectively, and develop recommendations for them to be reviewed and considered. So please, I'm asking you to be engaged.
Now, I've got a question. What would the restrictions be if it did not pass? When would be the earliest opportunity that the school would be able to redo a bond proposal? Has that been discussed at all?
Yeah, I think there's an election date in August and then November. I think we can
Okay.
you're allowed to turn those around pretty quickly.
Okay,
Yep. And the thought of creating a bond, and if it doesn't pass, you have Plan B. There is no Plan B. This is a skinned down, very elementary focused kind of situation. So retooling will be a real challenge, because it'll definitely leave some great needs off the table. An example of that is in 1999, it didn't pass and got retooled, and we still have a 1927 building because of it. And so there is definitely things to consider when we think that way. But that's all I got for now. If we were in person, like I would have liked to, Teresa could have given us all yes pins, but we missed that opportunity.
I will deliver them if you would like. Just let me know and I'll come right over.
could,
I have time before my next meeting. I have a half hour.
could you drop some off at City Hall?
Yes, yes, I can.
And then that way we can kind of get them distributed around.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mick.
I'll stop by tomorrow. Thank you.
But if there's no other questions, I've got another meeting at 7. I might be able to get some dinner in maybe tonight. So,
All right.
Thanks for the update.
no
Thank you.
problem. And you hear anything, you give me an email or call, and I'll connect with you until our next meeting, okay?
Very good.
All right, I'm
Right.
always available. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you all.